The belt system in the martial arts uses a system of short and long-term goals. Part 2. Hi, this is Dave Hughes of Ernie, Reyes Martial Arts in Gallatin. Welcome to my Life Coach Your Child series. We've been talking about goal setting, and the last video, part 1, was looking at how the belt system used in the martial arts can be role modeled as a system of short and long-term goals to teach your child in any area in their life. Now, as I mentioned before in the first series, the underbelt systems or belt rankings going from 10th ascending order up to first level is a system of short and long-term goals to make progress for the students. Now the lower levels, 10th, 9th, 8th, etc., would be very similar to comparing it to elementary school. We're just getting very basic foundation materials and developing the things that will allow the student to learn in later levels. Now the mid-range levels are going more along the lines of middle school. Now remember, different martial arts will put different colors on there, regardless of what tutti frutti color of the rainbow you're using. What really counts is those 10 levels. Now, those middle school levels, now you're getting a little bit more serious, you're getting a little bit more foundation. Now it's not just teaching students how to learn, but what to learn, and they've got at least a good base. Now, the higher levels of the underbelts, a lot of times it'll either be a brown or red level of belt. First, second, third, upper Q, depending on which system you're working with. Those levels are where you're really preparing the student to get a good foundation towards their later training and how to reach the higher levels. Now those levels are very similar to high school. Now what most people think is that being a black belt is an expert. Actually, in most systems, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu being one of the main exceptions, is the actually first degree black belt or the lower levels of black belt is just an advanced beginner that has a good foundation on all the basics, and they're now at the point that they can really train. Now, it'd be very similar to being a high school graduate, and then your black belt levels would be very similar to going off to college and working on your degrees. Now, first degree black belt usually is about a 2-year process and of reaching from first to second. Now, it usually is 3 to 5 years to reach your first degree black belt. And then first degree black belt, now you've gotten the good basics. Now you're physically and mentally in shape enough that we can really push you. Now, second degree black belt is very similar to achieving an associate's degree from a community college. In that levels, then at this point, you really not only have the basics down, but you're really competent. Now, some people have different levels of proficiency, but the whole idea behind it is the black belt system is a lifelong journey of growth and improvement. And like I said, it's not just something that you can use in the martial arts. In fact, in Asia, it's very commonly used in the fine arts and in other areas as well. For example, the word sensei, which is used a lot in America for a martial arts instructor. In Japan, if you're a judge, you're a sensei of law. If you're a medical doctor, you are a sensei of medicine. So it's not just martial arts terms. This is used quite often in a lot of Asian cultures. Now, when you get to the second degree black belt, in most systems, you're looking at a 2 to 3 year gap of training to go from second to third. At third degree black belt, you're actually a licensed teacher and professional in most systems. And at that level, you can teach independently. But you're still not what's considered a master, though you would be considered an expert. Now, going from third to fourth and fourth to fifth, now you're reaching master instructor and true mastery levels. And in fact, it's considered that the fourth degree black belt is equivalent to a master's degree. And honestly, in Europe, the Master of Fine Arts degree was developing the masterpiece as an artisan or craftsman, were being recognized as their peers of actually being a master of their trade or their art form. Now the fifth degree is where it's considered a true master, and that is equivalent to a PhD. And then degrees beyond that, 6. Now some systems just use a honorary system, and in some systems it is a fully tested where you're expected, regardless of your advancing age, to really progress, and both physically and mentally, and being a good role model to the community. That's also, since character education is so important in martial arts, that's actually a very strong requirement towards that. Now, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, And if in some systems 10th degree are a long time in between, and it's very similar to postdoctorate work going into specialties or to higher levels. A lot of times that also include making dramatic improvements within a system, both from an administrative level and also by contributing things like major works in publications or video and helping the growth of the system as far as from a teaching standpoint. But the thing is, there's always going to be, no matter how high you climb the mountain. In fact, a great analogy I've heard used in the martial arts is, regardless of what martial arts system that you're training in, whether it's Japanese, Chinese, Korean, Israeli, Russian, Brazilian, regardless of what system it is, basically it's just taking different paths up the mountain. But at the time that you get to the top of the mountain, then when you're looking down, you're still at the same point. But fortunately and unfortunately for you, when you're at the top of that mountain, then you look across and say, oh, from the valley, this looks so high. But welcome to the Himalayas. There's many other mountains higher up. Oh, Mount Everest, wow. But it gives you an understanding that there's always levels that you can improve upon. And it's just a good base and a role model to work with kids towards not only their short-term goals, but to their long-term goals, whether it's in education, in athletics, or whatever else that you're trying to accomplish. To give you an example, the coveted 10th degree black belt. Now, some systems like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Taekwondo, there is no living 10th degree black belts. These are people that have already passed. A lot of times the grading is posthumous. Now, the other systems, to give you an example, Judo, which started the belt system almost 150 years ago, there's only been 15 people that have been officially promoted by the main organizing body to that 10th degree. And, most of them have also passed, but at least they did it while they're still alive. There's very, very few legitimate non-self-promoted 10th degrees or even 9th degrees out there. I recently, after 45 years of training, reached my 8th degree. My instructors, one of which is a Black Belt Hall of Fame instructor by Black Belt Magazine, just reached 9th after over 50 years of training. But it gives you an idea. It still gives you something to really push for and grow. For myself, now I've been a World Jiu-Jitsu champion. The grappling portion, I'm great at. I love tying people in knots. I have to admit, I'm also very good at the striking. I'm not as big on certain parts of the curriculum, though. I probably won't, if it weren't for the testing, I probably won't push myself as hard as that. But you always want to have that continual growth and that always that progress. And that's what the underbelt or Q or GUP system and black belt DAN system creates within the martial arts. And like I said, you can put that for your children as short and long-term goals for lifelong accomplishment.